For all intents and purposes, a distinct American identity did not exist before the Revolution. In fact, by the mid-1700s, the colonists had in many ways become more British than the British themselves. This was due to several factors. Most of the colonists had spent their entire lives outside of their ancestral homeland. Several generations had grown up in America, and many colonists felt a need to connect with their roots. Many non-English groups who had settled in the colonies, such as the Scots, French, Irish, Dutch, and Germans, wanted to prove that they too were British and loyal to the Crown. They also wanted to distance themselves from the black slaves, Indian tribes, and French Catholics with whom they shared the continent. So they wanted to be as British and as Protestant as possible. A common sense of Britishness united the colonies. In the years between 1763 and 1776, however, this changed. After the 7 Years' War, the colonies emerged with a new sense of British pride. After all, they had together defeated the French and Indians and secured the continent for themselves. Parliament decided that it was time for the colonies to pay their fair share. In the next few years, they passed several acts, the most infamous being the 1765 Stamp Act, to tax the colonies. The colonists protested that these acts were unfair because they didn't have any representation in Parliament. Relations between Britain and America soured, and incidents such as the Boston Massacre in 1770 and the Boston Tea Party in 1773 made feelings worse between the colonies and the mother country. After the Boston Tea Party, Parliament passed a number of measures to punish the colonies, especially Massachusetts. These were called the Intolerable Acts. First, the port of Boston was closed until the cost of tea was repaid. Second, the charter of Massachusetts was revoked, and town meetings were forbidden. Third, British officials who committed crimes in the colonies would be tried in Britain. Fourth, British soldiers could be housed in civilian quarters. Another act gave a large piece of land to Quebec. This outraged the colonists. First, they were forbidden from settling west of the Proclamation Line of 1763, and then that land was given to the Catholic French. The colonists felt that they were collectively being punished for the actions of a few radicals. To address the situation, representatives from 12 of the 13 colonies met in the First Continental Congress of 1774 to petition Parliament to address their concerns. But Parliament ignored them, and tensions continued to rise. The Revolutionary War began on April 19, 1775, with the battles of Lexington and Concord. Even with a war going on, most colonists still favored a reconciliation with Britain. They blamed their troubles on Parliament, not the king, to whom they were still loyal. But two events happened that changed their minds. First, King George III rejected the Olive Branch Petition and declared the colonies to be in rebellion. The Olive Branch Petition had been sent by the Second Continental Congress to the king as an offer of peace. The king's rejection felt like a betrayal to many. Second, the pamphlet Common Sense by Thomas Paine was published, which argued for American independence in plain terms. By the end of the war, most colonists saw themselves not as British, but Americans.